My name is Ashley Stevens, and I am a fourth grade teacher at Portland Gateview Elementary.
My name is Misty Hutchinson, and I am a behavior teacher at Portland Gateview Elementary and studied to be a behavior analyst, and hopefully by August of this year will be board certified.
All right, so talking about our school, Portland Gateview is a K-5 elementary school. We live in a rural community, and we have a lot of small businesses in our downtown area. We're a big farming and industrial focused town, and we have a pretty small population of around 13,000. So when we're talking about SEL meets STEM, why we think it's important is because when we have our behavior students, a lot of times their reality of school is a lot different than your general education kids. They don't get to participate in a lot of those experiences. So what we want to try to do is to make sure that we're being inclusive in every practice and incorporating them in our activities. We also want to use SEL to give them the emotional regulation and problem-solving skills that they don't really get to practice in their day-to-day BLAST classroom. So what we've decided to implement is Misty was a part of the Rural Collaborative through TSIN, and I was a part of the Manufacturing and Engineering Externship Project. So we kind of got two different facets of the TSIN programs. And through those, we got to develop a lot of community partnerships. And then with a little bit of my help, we kind of started working through the grade levels and trying to get teachers to buy in to want to be inclusive with everyone. And then some of our strategies that we did was we collaborated with the grade level classrooms, and we also collaborated with community partners. And so we designed, implemented, and created a variety of different STEAM PBLs to implement throughout the grades. Some of the biggest struggles that we had while we were implementing were financial issues, finding all the money that we needed to get all the different materials that we had. We are from a small town, so finding that community support is pretty limited. We had to be very intentional with who we sought out to help us. We also had some time constraints just with trying to get classroom teachers to buy in when they're also trying to get prepared for TCAP and various other things. And another big struggle is our BLAST kids have a lot of communication skill issues because they don't get a lot of practice within the GenEd classroom to be able to communicate and work out problems with their peers.
Oh, this is me, sorry. So BLAST is the program that I teach, and BLAST stands for Behavioral Learning and Social Skills Training. Pretty much what this program was intended to do was take students who had a special education deficit in emotional health of some sort or a mental health disability and help them regulate their emotions and learn how to use coping strategies whenever they're faced with problems in the gen ed classroom or on the playground or at lunch. For a typically developing student, it's easy for them to go to lunch and sit across from their peer and have conversational skills, but for a student who has a mental deficit of some sort, or if they come from a really high history of trauma, they don't have that. They're used to people yelling at each other. That's how they speak. And you're like, hold up, I'm right here next to you. You ain't got to be all up in my face to talk to me. So that's a lot of the things that we really try to work on there, and we kind of push academics to the side, because if a child is struggling through some sort of traumatic experience, they're not going to care what 5 + 5 is and why it needs to be learned and how it's impacting the rest of their trajectory of their educational career. That's not where their focus is. A lot of the times their focus is am I going to eat dinner tonight? Is dad going to punch mom in the face while we're trying to have, bath time? What kind of things am I going in? Where am I sleeping at tonight? I got some homeless kids in my classroom, that's the struggles that we look at. Well, I look at on a day-to-day basis. Our school is an elementary school of 650 students, and out of that 650, I do have 15 students ranging from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade in my classroom. Very difficult because you've got those 5th graders who are teaching them kindergartners some not so great stuff. And then by 2nd grade, you're like, oh my God, I thought we went through this already. But some of the disabilities that are common in my program are ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. Not a big fan of that one. ADHD. Everybody knows what ADHD is. Autism. Not as many students with an autism diagnosis in my classroom, and if I do, I have 2 right now, and they are high functioning. They are verbal, very verbal. And then I have schizoaffective disorder. I do have intermittent explosive disorder. That one's fun. Anxiety disorders, adjustment disorders, and the new crave that's going around is emotional disturbance. When we can't throw them into OHI, we just toss them into emotional disturbance. That one's driving me nuts right now. But if you know anything about mental health, it's a roller coaster. They cycle. And that's what's really difficult whenever you're trying to take a student who is struggling with some sort of mental deficit and place them back in the academic setting with all these new challenges. And then you have this kid who you don't know when their cycle's coming and what's going to trigger it. And then you maybe have made all this progress for 3 months and like, all right, we're ready. We're going to kick some math butt right now. We get in there and they're like, oh, good Lord, we broke a pencil. That triggers them because they're so built up and they're so like, I'm doing so well. I'm going to get this. I'm going to do this. I'm good at this. And that one little thing that means nothing to you and me, you're like, you broke a pencil. There's a pencil sharpener. Go over and sharpen that sucker up. Let's go. To them, it's destroyed everything that they just worked for. So you have to start back over, and you have to use those social skills that we're teaching. So we do have in my program an inclusive and non-inclusive students. My program is leveled, so whenever I have a very large safety issue, a very combative child, a very aggressive child, it's going to take a minute to get that one out because we have a lot of work to do for the safety of not only that child, but every child that's in the school. Because while my children do have the right to go out and be included in a classroom, I also have to take and think about those students that are in GenEd have the right to be in there too. So that's very difficult whenever you've got a lot of different mindsets and viewpoints of behavior, and it is frustrating, and I deal with it daily. But just coming at it from a different lens sometimes helps. But through integrating these STEAM projects that we did this year, I have been able to get out 13 students into the GenEd classroom. So, thank you. Some of them are out for everything throughout the whole day, and we go in and support. Some of them are out independently, and I only get called down whenever they're struggling with something or we can foresee a project's going to be difficult for them to complete that they haven't learned yet. And some of them only go out for pockets of time right now, but the whole goal is to get them completely back out amongst their peers in the academic setting, learning and developing those relationships. So STEAM has really been a game changer for us this year in order to be able to do that. And of course, mindset shifts of some of the GenEd teachers who are willing to participate and partner with us on that, and being a little patient because it is a little rough at first. The other thing I was going to say is, where did you say this was?
It is, if you go onto where we're listed on the app and you click on Misty's name, it'll pull up like all of our documents that go along with our presentation.
So what this is Castle's SEL framework. Has anybody ever seen this before? Okay. So basically what that stands for is a collaborative, it's a collaborative for academic, social, emotional learning. And their whole goal was to use evidence-based social, emotional learning programs and integrate that into the academic setting. And how can we do that to be successful for those students who are struggling with that mental health deficit. So when you look through this, it's got a lot of really great knowledge about the 5 different categories of the social emotional learning that they do. and how it aligns to different areas of that child's life in the school, in the community, at home, all that different stuff, and what it actually impacts for them.
So if you have any questions as you look through that document and as we're talking through some of the PBLs that we put into place, please just jot them down and we'll circle back to that at the end of our presentation and give you plenty of time to ask whatever questions you might have.
Or you could just shout them out right now, because I know I gave you a lot of information about that BLAST program, and I just kind of gave you the tip of the iceberg of what it actually is.
How do students get placed into your classroom? Do you have to have a diagnosis, or how does that work?
So we have behavior teams through our county, and what happens is they go through a process to where we try to implement strategies in the gen ed classroom first. We never want to just take them out and change everything, because it is a huge change whenever they come to me. So we have a behavior team come down, and we have like a behavior interventionist or an RBT, which is a registered behavior technician, come down from the county who works under RBCBA for the county. And they try to implement strategies with the classroom teacher and that child before we ever start anything. If those strategies don't work, then we go through the FBA and the BIP process. So FBA, is everybody in here educators? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay. FBA is the function behavior analysis, which is why we figure out why they're doing, what they're looking for. Do they want attention? Are they hungry? Are they sleepy? What's going on? And then we create a BIP, which is a behavior intervention plan document. So whenever we have the BIP written, we do 2 revisions of that before they make a referral for me to step in. After the second referral, they have went through several different changes of their BIP, and then I go in and basically say, yeah, there's something deeper here that we need a more intensive approach to. Because sometimes, like, it could be a little bit of, this kindergarten teacher just got handed 25 kids. Hey, good luck, and sometimes you need to put in like something simple that she or he is just not thinking about right now. It could be, hey, you need to go over to little Johnny and put him on his own token system, even though you have this clip chart back here, which is fabulous and wonderful and working for 90% of your students. This one needs it a little faster, so sometimes I wish more often than not it was that easy, but it's not. But that's the process there.
So how do I explain that to my littles? Like, okay, I know that little Johnny, he just got a cupcake or whatever, but you're going to sit there and you're going to do your work all day long. Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So for me, what I normally do, I don't, like, I'm not going to come up and say, here's you an M&M. I'm going to say, here's you a stamp. Good job. And then you train it in, and then eventually you're like, you extend that out. Like, if the child needs something so big, like you need this Smartie every time you sit down on the carpet, well then for my class, what I would probably do is I would say, hey, we're going to do this Smartie reward chart, and after they get, so even though after so many at the end of the day, if you got that little star and you kept your star up there, so that way they are understanding, hey, I do get to earn it too, but I'm capable of so much more at a longer time, to where this little friend is not. And sometimes I go in and I talk to the class and I'll say, hey, our little friend Johnny here is struggling, so I really need y'all's help. I need you to be a partner with me, because like little kindergartners are like, what can I do? I'm gonna help you. I want to hold the door. And so like, it's just managing that part of it, is like giving them that thing that makes them feel special too. Because like I have 6 kids, personal children of my own, and I'm like, just because your brother done got a new video game doesn't mean you got to get a new video game. It's his birthday. So it's kind of, that's what I do, is like you just think about it a little bit in the context of, yeah, they do need to know that, hey, this is your responsibility and this is what's so super important about you, and sometimes it could just be, hey, this is going to be a secret, and here's some chapstick, it smells like lemon, I'm going to rub it right here and get you a little lemon smell, something like that. So that's kind of how I curve that. And what I have seen, because that same comment comes up several times, and what I've seen in the upper grades is whenever those children do that in the upper grades, they've generally been with this kid for so long that they're like, oh, we're desensitized to that now, which I hate. But, and you're just like, okay, well, we understand why he needs that extra help right now. But as they get older, it's like, I'm not going to hand a 4th grade student, here's Smarty. I'm going to be like, look, you got to work till 12 to get 10 minutes of recess with the gym teacher on his lunch break. He don't know it yet, but he coming. And it's just having that kind of thing. Just being creative with what it is that you offer.
Yeah, and so I have about 3 out of the 7 Blast kids are in 4th grade. And so my biggest thing is before they started coming in, just talking to my students like they're regular people, explaining this is what's gonna happen. This is how some things work. And I have a really, really sweet, empathetic class, so they very much do everything that they can to, well, let's support him. Let's cheer him on when he does good, or let's make sure that he knows that we're there for him, or let's get him over here and get him away from whatever is, triggering him. So especially, in the upper grades, your kids are going to be aware, and they're going to be able to talk to you one-on-one and, understand what the process is and what they're going through. And so that helps a lot, just talking to them and letting them know.
Any more questions before we move forward? Okay, anything? You got anything? Okay.
All right, so we were designated a STEAM school last year. And so we've really been putting a huge focus on how can we incorporate STEAM in every aspect of our school and every aspect of the different subjects that we're teaching. And so this STEAM platform has really been the way that we can take SEL and kind of push it forward, especially for our behaviorally challenged kids. So the specific project that we're going to talk about is 1st grade, but before that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 4th grade project that I helped Misty with.
Just a plug real quick. We had 6 projects planned this year, and we were able to implement 4 of them. And when she's done talking about the one that 4th grade did, I'll tell you real quick about the other couples, and then we focused on this one for this presentation.
Right, so for 4th grade, we learn a lot about fractions and measurement and adding, subtracting. So our project that we incorporated Blast with was designing and creating and constructing a Gaga pit for our school. So we got together with Misty. Once we had all of our materials, we had to measure the wood, figure out where we needed to put the screws in, attach it, and all of our kids were the ones who did this. We didn't help them necessarily use the tools or do
yes, we did,
special.
with the drills.
Well, with the drills, yes.
4th graders with drills.
But they did a really good job. But yeah, so we really let them be the owner of this project and make a lot of decisions about where is it going to go, what's the best place to put it so that it doesn't get filled with water every time that it rains. And they had such a great time experiencing just being able to help each other out and being able to make something for our school that's going to be available for use for generations to come. So if you want to talk about the other projects that we did.
So to follow up along her Gaga pit, they learned about slopes and angles and all of the different mathematical skills that I do not know anything about. And we had a community partner come in who was an engineer, and what he did is he came in and he had scans of our school, and they got to look at where that erosion might happen if we place this pit. Does everybody know what a Gaga pit is? Okay, it's this big, well, some of them are hexagons and some of them are octagons. What our kids chose was the hexagon design. And basically you have this pit that's about this high, built with in a hexagon shape at our school, and they have a ball and they kick it, roll it.
They kick it.
It's
kind of like a combination of soccer and dodgeball.
Yeah, but you can't touch it, and if it touches you, you're out. So it gets pretty intense pretty quickly. And I was like, are you sure you want to build Gaga pit with the behavior students? Okay, but whatever. Sure. So the engineer came in and he did a beautiful presentation to these children and kind of let them understand what that process looks like from start to finish and what they were going to need in order to get it completed and where would be the nicest places on the property with the less amount of water runoff, correct?
Right.
Yeah, and all that stuff. So they got to kind of design the shape that they want. They had two to pick from. The shape that was going to fit best in the area that they chose, where all that stuff and all. But that was the community partner that we had come in for that, and we had a donation from one of our local manufacturers come in to help purchase the materials to build that pit. The other one that we had was a kindergarten project where they learned colors and shapes and how to work together as a team. And we did a kindness garden of rocks. So we have like a rock river that's very colorful with like little ladybugs and frogs and Among Us characters and who cares, whatever. So that was one that they partnered. I have one student in kindergarten, so that way we partnered up with our art teacher, who's fantastic, and our kindergarten classrooms with our behavior staff as well. And we talked about why kindness is important, what it can do for somebody. And every time you see these rocks as we're going through, why is that nice and what's beautification? Does that make you feel happy? You know, those kind of things. And then with first grade, we'll tell you about that in a minute because that's the one we're presenting today. Then we didn't make third grade's project because, it's a lot. Fourth grades took a lot. And fifth grades, second grade, that's who I missed. Y'all, I can't count. I teach reading. I'm just going to say. So second grade, we have started the process of creating an entire butterfly garden. Currently, right now, our kids are growing caterpillars into butterflies in the classroom right now. Little chrysalis, whatever. Let me see what's done. It's gross looking right now. It stinks. But anyway, but we made butterfly houses. They had to make a prototype. We took a plot of land outside, and we have mulched areas, different places. We have flagpoles ran up where we're placing butterfly houses, which I didn't even know was a thing. I was like, just put a birdhouse out there. What's wrong with that? There's a lot wrong with that, and they did a lot of research to tell me why there was something wrong with that. And I was like, okay, got it. Butterfly houses it is. So we got some butterfly houses, and we got some puddler ponds, and we did all that stuff, and we partnered with our CDC classroom at our school as well. Our CDC classroom was able to come out, and the part that they were doing was making butterfly handprints out of plaster of Paris, I think it is, and they just loved it. And they got to decorate it, and it's the design part for down on the ground. And the butterfly houses prototypes were being made this year, and what we found out is that they're very flimsy and they are not going to work. So we let the kids take those home, and next year, for the next kids who are coming up, they're making the solid place. So we've got the ground level and everything working. I had my kids out there mulching. We planted flowers. They had to do research on the flowers and bushes that we need out there, which is just milkweed and butterfly bushes. That was how easy it was. And I was like, are you sure? We don't need orchids and lilies and whatever. I'm not a gardener. I was like, who's going to come take care of this? Because I ain't going to do it. I don't know how to do it. But they're going to. Sorry. This is my magic finger. We had a community partner that came in for the butterfly garden. They donated $1,000 to the project, and they sent a bunch of volunteers out, and they helped our kids last week. Mm-hmm. Yep, they were there last week building the butterfly houses with our kids, and they helped us lay the mulch and helped put some trees. I don't know what's out there. I think it's a dogwood tree. I don't know what it is because I'm not a landscaper. I don't know. I'm just like, yep, looks pretty. Put it down. But anyway, they came out and they were helping. So we had a really good community partner with that one as well. So
Okay, so the project that we're going to focus on and kind of show you more about is our first grade project. Within first grade, we have 3 BLAST students. And these students have a really hard time making friendships, self-regulating themselves when they get triggered. They have issues with play skills and just basic conversation skills. So we specifically, purposefully chose this group of students to highlight the importance of early intervention. So if we can catch these BLAST students in first grade and work with them and get them the skills that they need, they can graduate out of our program before they get to middle school, which is what our goal is. Oh, there it is.
Okay, so the first grade PBL, we kind of partnered with the first grade students, and they are learning in their classrooms right now, they are learning the plant life cycle. So one of the things that we learn in our social emotional program is to really look at our senses as our first indicators of something's wrong in my environment. So whenever you get upset or something, sometimes you sweat, sometimes you get sweat, I don't know, whatever. But that's kind of what heightens everything for your flight, and freeze senses. Freeze is new. Did I even put that on there? I don't think I did by the time I sent this in. Can't see. Y'all, I'm old. I can't see. But anyway, basically, they collaborate. What we did is we wanted to figure out how could we implement and create something that partnered with the senses that technically they learned in like probably preschool is whenever that starts, and then for kindergarten, but link it to the flowers and all of that kind of stuff. So whenever we did this, we had a, what's my next slide? Oh yeah, look, there it is, I just said it. See, that's big, I can read that one. What's the next one? Okay, that's it. Okay, go back. That one's yours. So basically what we did is I went around and I started talking to people. So I sent out emails and letters in the mail, the snail mail, like people don't do no more. And then I went to knocking on people's door and I was like, hey, I got this really cool idea. And I just started talking to people in my community. And I know that I talked to probably about 300 people, companies in my community, and I got 5 to help. So next year I'm gonna go talk to 301 and I'm gonna get 6. Well, whatever, I'm still gonna do it. So basically what we did is we wanted to create a sensory smelling garden, but also a vegetable garden. So we had a community partner who came in and talked to the kids who owned a plant nursery in our town. And he come in and he talked to kids and he talked to them about why it's important, what plants do for our world and how we deal with them here in our community and what they're good for and what kind of vegetables we raise in our area that will work really well and what kind of plants would roll. Because, like, I don't know about y'all, but, like, I'll take a palm tree, but it probably ain't going to survive. I live in Kentucky, so it ain't going to survive in Kentucky, I'm telling you right now. We get a pine tree. That's what. Palm tree? I want a palm tree, but I'm going to get a pine tree. Anyway, so basically what we wanted to do is show students how we are able to connect the senses to the plants and the vegetables around us and how that helps regulate our emotions whenever we're working towards coping skills and identifying what those senses of our body tell us before we end up bursting up here into like aggression, because I hate that part, but it happens. Oh, no, I don't say that.
Okay, so when we talk about the precursors to the PBL that we implemented, like we said, we intentionally wanted to select like our behaviorally challenged students and pair them up with a GenEd peer role model that could help them. This would be a student that is already academically adept, so they kind of know what's going on, and they can kind of partner up with them and give them that social, emotional support that they need. And so what we did was we kind of guided their conversations. We really pushed problem-solving skills and social emotional regulation. And we did all this through the pre-teaching of coping strategies and having that inclusive support. And then by implementing all these steps, we were successful and we were able to provide SEL support through a STEM project. And these behaviorally challenged students were able to be in an inclusive setting. And they were able to be alongside their peers And through this, they were taught how to co-regulate and help their peers out whenever they're having those social deficits. And a big thing is, like, when it's focused on senses, one of the biggest things that we do is, well, what are 5 things that you can see? What are 4 things that you can touch? And we kind of walk them through that, and it was able to pair nicely with this project that we did.
Real quick, the other thing that's really beautiful about when we paired that project with those students, our peers, our typically developing peers, were able to learn right alongside that process. And what's really beautiful to see is they start noticing things about themselves or just another peer in general. Like, I come walking in the door one day, she goes, "Ooh, your face look bad." Like, thank you. She said, "You might want to do some breathing strategies." Got it. I got it. So, like, they pick up on these things at an early age, and it's really nice to see. And like, as we have been doing, bringing in our peers and teaching them those co-strategies also, they have been able to help not only their other typically developing peers with problem-solving skills, like on recess, who's going to kick the ball first on a kickball game, because not everybody going to get a turn anyway. Everybody got to be first. But anyway, they use all that kind of stuff. But then they also start noticing the triggers of some of what the behavioral students look like, and they're able to help co-regulate with that behavior student and kind of put themselves in this situation where they're a helper as well. So, like, they know that Ashley over here is going to get mad at this math problem because she don't know how to figure it out, and I can see that her nostrils are starting to flare, so I'm going to go over and say, "Hey, you need some help with that math problem?" And we've seen our students do that, and that's what's really beautiful about this kind of thing that's going on. And then we have seen some of our behavior students do the same thing. Like, "Hey, you done colored outside the lines. You want to make you a new line?" But they're trying to figure stuff out, to help one another. And that's what we've kind of gotten away from. It's like everybody's like, "Just do it this way."
Yeah. So when we started this process, we had several different things that we wanted to accomplish. We wanted a vegetable garden, but we also wanted our sensory garden to be able to tie in with that SEL. So we made salad kits where we had lettuce and tomatoes and peppers, where they were able to actually like taste part of their science stuff, which is something that is like really amazing to them because you never get to taste science. But they also got to smell and see it and touch it. Then we had our herb garden with lavender and basil and thyme, rosemary and peppermint. And so they were able to kind of learn about, wow, when I smell the peppermint, it kind of calms me down a little bit, and I'm able to like take a deep breath and think about what's going on. We also connected in the hearing with just following directions, listening to presenters, even like the sounds of some of the plants as they're being picked, like especially like lettuce, because it's very crunchy, so it's something that they could like tune into and connect all those different senses. And like she said, we connected with some community partners. Jim Donahoe is a local plant nursery owner, and he was able to come out and speak to the students about why we have plants in our community and why it's so important. And also connect to those first grade science standards to kind of help out our gen ed teachers, like meet that standard in a way that wouldn't be necessarily something that they would normally do. Go ahead.
No, go ahead with Donna. I was going to say go back and we can.
Okay. And then we also had Donna Sadler, and she's a small business owner, a graphic designer, and she's an avid gardener within the community. And she helped us create some signs that we could label the garden bins with. And she also came and helped us transplant our crops over to our raised garden beds.
Go back one. So one of these students right here is the behavior student, and one of these students is a typically developing peer. And we started with the seeds put in those little paper cups and the other thing. Then they transplanted them into these pods that is an indoor growy thing. I don't know what it's called. Sounds great. I said, I don't know, just get something in the classroom. Here's the money. I don't know. So they got that going there, and then from there, we took them into these grow towers that we have lined along the hallways to where they could get to really see, like everybody in school started getting to see that all these plants are starting to come out and this. So from there, next slide. From there, we planted them in these raised garden beds that we have outside in our corridor. So these were actually donated to us. There's 4 of them. They were donated to us from TCAT. Have you guys ever heard of TCAT? Okay, so we actually have a location, a TCAT site in our little town. And we called over there and we was like, hey, friend, we need some help. So they did that for us. But that also gave us the opportunity to show students in our school that, hey, this is some of the things that you can do at this really cool college that you are totally capable of going to. It is right down the street. How awesome is that? So we really were excited about having that community partner come in and partner with our kiddos. Is this me also? Okay. So this is, what time is it?
Yeah.
So this is, going back to what I said in the very beginning, just changing the framework of how we think about behavior and how we implement STEM. So in my classroom, my students have always been those bad kids over there. We don't want them in our classroom. Please don't get him in here. Come get him out. He told me no. He ain't doing his work. Come get him. I ain't got time to deal with this. So mindset, and that was from years of it being ran incorrectly and not supported the right way. It kind of got that and allowed to become that bad kid over there. Because, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. It looks terrible when my kids blow up. It looks horrible. It's sad. I cry. Not so much now. I did in the beginning. I was like, dang, that sucks. But anyway, now wait till I get home. But anyway, when you see a student who has Down syndrome, you can see the disability, and our hearts change a little because you're like, okay, I know that kid's going to struggle with whatever I throw at him because I can see that he has a disability. He has something that he struggles with. You know, like you can tell whenever students who have a clear-cut diagnosis, and you can see it. A behavioral student, you can't see it until it happens. But what I do want to say is those kids who have reading deficits or math deficits or something else, those kids might have went through a trauma too. They're just not presenting it to you in a behavioral way because for whatever reason, like they may have had a challenge to where they had to shove it down and they're not allowed to, or things like that. And in my world, it's no different than my student who's coming to you stabbing himself with a pencil because he's mad. I don't know. It looks bad, but the core problem is still the same. We still have a child who is struggling with something and doesn't know how to fix it on their own. They need help. So changing the framework and looking at it through a lens of STEM, it wasn't just about the academic, which every kid in my class is at least 2 to 3 levels behind because they were kind of shoved and yeah. So whenever you brought in back to that elementary, just core bottom level of, hey, play teaches kids. Hands-on learning is awesome. STEM is that. STEM looks like hands-on learning in a not play format, but it can be. It can be awesome. And that's how my kids were able to make so much growth, I think, this year, because now I got at least 3 of them back on grade level. So fostering successful interactions and friendships was really key because it put them in a situation to where they could really sit inside of a situation with another peer and problem solve in real time to where I'm just like, okay, we're going to role play. And they're like, Miss Misty, I'm like, okay, fine. So whenever we were able to put that in real life interaction, stuff started clicking. And they were like, okay, this is why I needed to know that coping skill that you taught me like 3,000 million times. Got it now. Now I can use it. And now I can get out. And now I can be with my friends. So that's kind of all I got. If you have any further questions or wanted to brainstorm any ideas about anything behavior-wise, I would love to talk to you. This is Misty Hutchinson at summerschools.org. I'm the BLAST teacher at Portland Gateview Elementary. If you need to know anything about math, you just ask Ashley because it ain't me.
Yes, and I'm a gen ed teacher. I currently teach 4th grade, but I am going up to middle school next year, sadly. So I kind of know a big, large portion of academia, but also pairing it with our students who are struggling behaviorally.
Okay, we got 4 minutes. Anybody got questions?
I do. So, have you all experienced, because I've experienced it, I don't exactly know what the right thing to do when this happens, but we've had a couple of kiddos in my school that are like your kids you described, and they have had outbursts, and they've seen, and their peers have seen them do that, and they over time kind of become hesitant to work with that person, or to be in the, and I've even had parents sometimes reach out and say, stuff has happened, my kids told me about, I want my kid anywhere near this kid. How do y'all navigate through that? I'm an administrator, by the way, so I get all the complaints and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
I could never be that.
The friend that lives in our school is actually no longer at our school because they are in like an alternative kind of school environment, which is exactly where that friend needs to be.
Yeah, to get the help.
But we're a STEAM school, and so we do a lot of collaborative learning and a lot of group work and but how do y'all how do you navigate that when that happens?
So one of the things that I normally do is do you have a behavior program in your school?
A whole behavior team.
Okay. Me personally, I would have pulled those 2 kids and I would have done just game building skills and social skills lessons with both of them. And it's like, hey, yeah, people struggle every now and then, but it can be great. You got to give second chances. You got to forgive. And with the adult in the room, playing Uno, let's play Battleship, let's play something that, is going to rekindle that relationship and re-help that conversational skill happen. And then just manage minute, you build it up over time. Hey, on Mondays we're going to come down and we're going to build this. Hey, now on Mondays and Tuesdays we're going to go over here and we're going to help the gym teacher sweep the floors of the gym. Kids want to help all the time. And then you fold that back into the classroom eventually. It's like, hey, can you help him on questions number 2, 3, and 4? Hey, thank you. Just be super positive about it and manage that little snippet of time. Okay, thank you. You guys did a great job. Good.
Yeah. It's a lot about facilitation. I know what I personally did was while she was getting all those 4th grade students ready to push into our classroom, I would go into her classroom on my planning, sit down, play a game with them, build that relationship so that they trust me, and then I can take them into the classroom and build that relationship with the other students and facilitate that and be like, okay, well, let's all do this as a group together so I can kind of watch these problem-solving skills and offer solutions to them and kind of work them up to being able to do it. And then now I don't even have to tell my students, hey, will you help him on number 4? They're like, oh, I see he's struggling. He's starting to get frustrated. I'm going to go ahead and go over here. I know how to do this. I can help him out. So yeah, it's all about facilitation and taking it slowly and building relationships is the biggest thing that makes it successful.
And also going back to having that open mind that mental health works in a roller coaster wave. You never know. You may have a great success for a long period of time and something plummets. And it's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it. We could just help ride that wave with them and help co-regulate with them when that happens. Anybody else?
Yes. They are fried eggs.
It's funny.
They are excellent.
All right. Well, thank you guys so very much. If
thank
you have
you
any
for
other questions,
coming.
feel free to reach out.